Hey traders, I'm going to do the market internal review for July 10th, 2023. So today was challenging. We had a decently strong bar on the open. We had average tick closures on the rise from yesterday's close to today's open. And I was a little bit hopeful given that we had a green add and VOLD band for some upside. And we did also see some TRIN imbalance indication, but that was mostly short-lived. So we have this cluster of high tick here, breaking 800s. But you notice the price action here is highly suspect. We made zero progress overall with all of this strength in tick up until about here. So this last tick at 10:04, we did make a new high, but we did not make a new high here on this one. So we made high, low, lower low, and then a high. Roughly right about that point, the average closure started to trend back down. We did have a little bit of trend balance showing up here at the highs. So we're going to expect when trend is showing a balance that we have more of a mean reversion type scenario. So the standard deviation highs expect at least TWAP reclaim or standard deviation lows. So that's effectively what we started to see. So we had all these high ticks, and then we started printing a low tick down here. Notice it is oscillating between the previous session TWAP standard deviation levels. So we have the standard level lower 1 and the standard deviation level 2 lower that we're basically oscillating through, which brings up a good point here. So if you take a look at the add and VOLD bands, you can see the trend direction indications, these triangles, the red and green triangles, they're oscillating quite heavily. We're seeing low tick from previous day's close to high tick into today's morning session, back to low tick. We're seeing some trend balance indication here with these yellow dots. Then we're seeing trend disappear. When you are in this kind of environment, it's better to expect mean reversion, mean weakness, the TWAP here being the mean. And these levels, if we're trading within them, the previous day's standard deviation levels, these can be your scalps. So you can treat this, if we're above it or resting on it, as a support, aiming for the level above. Or if we're there, you can treat this as a resistance with the expectation that we'll probably head back down to the previous one below. That's something that I do on days like today. Personally, I did not trade a whole lot. When I see trend balance, I honestly find it to be more frustrating. Overall, it's just not much follow through with any directional moves. I do think that there was probably a couple of good setups here, like this short. We've got a bearish reversal on add. The VOLD wasn't really there yet, but we're really dim colored, so that indicates weakness. Overall, this means a lower close than the previous period. So between here to here, it went lighter to darker. We lost the TWAP, right? TWAP's red. We're going down. So this was a pretty good short setup. You could argue that this would have been a decent long, but we didn't really know that trend was in a balance yet. Unless you were watching the trend values and you saw where we were at. By that point in the morning session, I wanted to say that add was rocketing pretty heavy right out of the gate. Let's see. Yeah, the add was at 11:30. VOLD was pretty high, but VOLD was in a bearish trend. Okay, overall, like I said, just a lot of trend balance. You position the scalps looking for mean reversion. If we're at lows, revert back to TWAP and then maybe the highs for the deviation channel, or vice versa. Then otherwise, price, you could look to scalp between the different standard deviation levels. I do have some hope for bullish sentiment that potentially we'll see some some rise up tomorrow. It just really didn't seem like we're going to go much lower. Every time we're at lows, we're buying it back up. But the same case could be said for the bearish side. Every time we were at highs today, we didn't go any higher. We closed up kind of strong here, even though TRIN was still in a balance. I really had hoped to see them reclaim the previous day's TWAP level. I just realized I'm an SPX. It doesn't really matter. It's basically the exact same thing, but I was expecting us to, hoping that we would see some 446 action. We just couldn't do it. So we have this range here. That's basically what we were stuck in today. We could not clear that. Q's much the same deal. Almost exact same price action. I did notice that the RUS was much stronger today, as well as the Dow. So Dow did a very nice job of reclaiming previous TWAP, and we held that all day and closed at the high of day that we had printed in the morning session. RUS was even stronger. So we cleared our morning session high and made a new high a day at the end. This is where I'm hoping that we've got a little bit more bullishness coming into the rest of the week here. But we'll see. As far as monthly TWAP goes, this was the other thing I had noticed. So yesterday, once that dump really took off, we lost the monthly TWAP. We opened at the lower deviation, first deviation on SPY today, but we never reclaimed that monthly TWAP. But we did hold the 68% distribution area. So somewhat positive. We'll look at tick levels. Okay, so the majority of the ticks today really kept SPY around that 439.3 price. So that's what I'm going to be watching tomorrow. And we had a bear tick level at 438 roughly. So 438, 439, that's going to be kind of my region that I watch. If we open around there, that's going to be what needs to either hold for the bulls or break down for the bears. Reviewing tick, we had strong tick in the morning like MIT showed, and you can definitely see it's been a bit since I've broken out the blocking method, but you can see where we had a lot of oscillation, up, down, up, down. That's totally indicative of trend balance. So expect that when trend is showing you that there's a balance. You can treat the tick as kind of an RSI if you've used the RSI, where there's overbought and oversold, and you can trade that. Not going to say it works every time, but that definitely becomes more of the system of how to use tick. Way back in some of my original content, I said trend was kind of my missing link for giving me the confidence to sit on my hands if it's more of a balanced day, or position for a directional bias based on trend being up here from lows or down here from highs. This tool I just find indispensable for me. When we're clearly stuck in the balance area, it lets me know how to read tick and how to use it for intraday trading, or how to just ignore the charts for the day. Looking at ad, basically we're stuck sideways all day after this initial pump. So this initial pump we had, this is undoubtedly, this is the Dow, this is the RUS pushing up as we saw their chart, and then no more sustain for the rest of the day, which you can see in the RUS. When we reviewed the chart, rewind the video, go look at it. It was flat most of the afternoon session until the end, where it made a new high a day. Dow crept back down some and then reclaimed its morning session high to close out for the day, while SPY and Q basically landed where they opened and had overall a flat day. So to me, ad and what it's showing here perfectly explained in those 4 index charts that we already reviewed. The 1500 price line showing high credibility here. and its usefulness, we rejected cleanly right off of that. VOLD. All right, so VOLD, we didn't quite have the extreme breakout that I like to see, but I'm going to go ahead and say that we saw, I would hesitate to say that SPY wasn't in agreement with VOLD, because we did actually maintain price today. We didn't dump off, but we didn't really have a strong bullish day today. So I'm going to go ahead and say that given what VOLD looks like today, I would expect at least some kind of buy. That being said, we do have more economic news this week, I believe, some events. We had, 4 Fed speeches today. So with that kind of stuff on, it's really anybody's guess of how relevant this data is. Some large liquidity could come in at any moment and completely knock all this stuff out. So that brings me to another important thing. If you've traded in the markets, or if you're new, definitely check the economic calendar for the day, every day. Just get in the habit of doing that. Understand when their times are going to be applicable to you for when those events happen. And just realize that literally nothing, no market internals, no indicator will ever help you out when a large liquidity event hits the markets and the spreads go to hell. You just don't trust anything. Wait, let it settle out. Sometimes tick and the ad and the VOLD can give you a forecast, but you just be careful. that's what I'll say. Beyond that, let me check out VIX here real quick. They were doing some bit of a hike at open, if I recall. So we had a 16-ish price today, but we dumped the whole day. So I did say in, I think, yesterday's video, I would like to see if it's going to happen. I want to see this 15-16 area continue to show some kind of strength before I buy that volatility is entering the market again. So we'll see. That's a second attempt at 16 that we've not seen since June, beginning of June. So about a month. So we'll see. All right, that wraps it up. Keeping it short and sweet today. If you've got any questions, feel free to leave comments. I am posting some charts every now and then on Twitter, so you can follow me there. If you want to engage in the discussion, even ask me some questions intraday about what you're seeing in the internals and whether or not you think you're reading them right, or you just want to bounce ideas off of me, feel free to reach out, and I'll do my best to respond in a timely fashion. So other than that, thank you for watching, and as always, happy trading.